Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jayam Vishnu Pada Paramhansa Parivajigacharya Sotara Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Chekho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Radha Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gaur Gopinatha Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana ki jai. Shri Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Shri Navadvip Dham ki jai, Shri Shri Mayapur Dham ki jai, Shri Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai, Tulasi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Ganga Maya ki jai, Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaivam Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraayat Nastaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama-shlokir Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, 19th chapter, 36th verse, correct? Tam Sukaradhyam Rijubir Ananya Sharanayar Nibihi Kritagya Ko No Seveta Duraradyam Asadubhi Tam Sukaradam Rujibir Ananda Sharanay Ribu Kartagya Kona Seveta Duyaradam Asadubihi Tam Sukaradyam Rijubir Ananya Sharanai Rubi Kritagya Kono Sevita Duraradya Masu Dubi Tam Sukaradyam Rujibi Ananyam Sharanam Ribi Kritagya Kono Sevita Duraradya Masadubi
Tam Sukaradam Rujubi Ananya Saranam
Ananya Sharanam Nibihi Trijagya Kono Sevita Duradyam Asudibi
Tam Sukaradhyam Rijubi
Satsukaradam Rijubi
Ananya Sharanam Nibi
Ananya Sharanam Nibihi
Kritagya Kona Sevita
Kritagya Kono Sevita
Duraradya Masadubi
Duraradya Masadubi. Ladies?
Tam Sukaradam Rijubir
Tam Sukaradyam Rijubir
Ananya Sarananibi
Saranam Rijibi
Vitagna Kona Seveta
Kritagya Sone Sevita
Durarajam Asadhubi
Duradyam Asadubi Tam unto him Sukha easily Aradhyam worshipped Rujubihi by the unpretentious Ananya no other Sharanahai who takes shelter Nibihi by men Kritagyaha grateful soul Kritagyaha grateful soul Kaha what? Na not Sevitaha would render service. Duraradhyam impossible to be worshipped. Asadubihi by the non-devotees. Translation: what grateful soul is there who would not render his loving service to such a great master as the personality of Godhead? The Lord can be easily pleased by spotless devotees who resort exclusively to him for protection, though the unrighteous man finds it difficult to propitiate him. Responsively, what grateful soul is there who would not render his loving service to such a great master as the personality of Godhead? The Lord can be easily pleased by spotless devotees who resort exclusively to him for protection, though the unrighteous man finds it difficult to propitiate him. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Every living entity, especially persons in the human race, must feel grateful for the benedictions offered by the grace of the Supreme Lord. Anyone, therefore, with a simple heart of gratefulness must be Krishna conscious and offer devotional service to the Lord. Those who are actually thieves and rogues do not recognize or acknowledge the benedictions offered to them by the Supreme Lord, and they cannot render him devotional service. Ungrateful persons are those who do not understand how much benefit they are deriving by the arrangement of the Lord. They enjoy the sunshine and the moonshine, and they get water free of charge, yet they do not feel grateful, but simply go on enjoying these gifts to the Lord. Therefore, they must be called thieves and rogues. Translation again by Srila Prabhupada. What grateful soul is there who would not render his loving service to such a great master as the personality of Godhead? The Lord can be easily pleased by spotless devotees who resort exclusively to him for protection, though the unrighteous man finds it difficult to propitiate him. In one sense, it's very interesting that Prabhupada ended almost every lecture by saying, thank you. There's another place where Srila Prabhupada has said that a devotee is a spiritual master to his or her spiritual master. And he went on to say that I have to accept these people and I have to guide them. That is my duty. So gratitude is in very short supply these days. When we switch on the light switch or turn the ignition key in the car, we don't thank Krishna that it works. It works most of the time. But when it doesn't work, we blame God. But when it does work, we don't blame him. In insurance policies, it's said that floods, hurricanes, and earthquakes are acts of God. But they don't say that when we're living without hurricanes, floods, and earthquakes, that is the mercy of God. That's also an act of God, but they don't say that's an act of God. So we live in a godless, thankless society. Although preaching itself can be a thankless task, as Prabhupada has told several times, an atheist is a person who is always thankless for everything. Doesn't believe in God, doesn't believe that God is responsible for everything. And as it is said here, ungrateful persons are those who do not understand how much benefit they are deriving by the arrangement of the Lord. They enjoy the sunshine and moonshine, and they get water free of charge, yet they do not feel grateful, but simply go on enjoying these gifts of the Lord. Therefore, they must be called thieves and rogues. These are very powerful statements to be calling almost everyone in the world a thief and a rogue. In a sense, there's some truth in this, because it is said in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhoktaram Jagatapasam Lokoyam Karma Bandhanaha, that everything is the mercy of Krishna. Everything belongs to Krishna. Krishna is the father of all living beings. So in peace settlements, like in the United Nations, for example, which is an atheistic organization, people don't worship God, and they think that they're going to obtain peace and happiness without God. There was a field trip that Prabhupada organized in, I think it was May of 1966, or thereabouts. And it was in front of the United Nations Secretariat on 34th Street and First Avenue, or Avenue B. It's right on the waterfront of East Manhattan. And the pamphlet that was made for handing out was the peace formula, Yoginam api sarvesham, Yoginam api sarvesham, the last verse of the Bhagavad Gita. And we were chanting and walking up and down. And then someone came out of that secretariat building in a suit and tie, a gentleman, and he told us that we could be there, but we couldn't march on a protest. We had to sit on the sidewalk and quietly utter what we were preaching about. And what we were preaching about was, without God, there's no chance of a peaceful settlement, or there's no unity in the United Nations. And therefore, it's a godless and a civilization and a hopeless situation. So we take everything for granted. The water, the air, the ground, and now, even though the ground, the air, and the water is highly polluted and highly dangerous, we tend to think it's God's fault. And the only time God is brought into the picture is if there's a disaster, like a flood or some kind of unusual weather occurrence that's not predicted by the meteorologists. So then we can say, this is an act of God, and this is God's fault, that there was a flood, that there was a storm, that there was lightning, and there was thunder, and my house was struck by lightning and burnt down. It was God's fault. So everything we have, everything we eat, everything we drink, is the mercy of God. And as it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, everything comes from God, and grains, the rains, everything comes from the Lord. So we tend to think that if there's a flood or a storm, it's an act of God. In a way, it is, because sometimes Indra becomes very animalistic or very violent and throws thunderbolts upon the world. So, but we tend to think that that's an unusual occurrence. It's destiny or something like that. Instead of saying it's an act of God, it's just destiny. Yeah, or there's a phrase that's been adopted from French, c'est la vie, which means that's literally, that is life. It's not God. It's just destiny. It's fate. It's what happens. It's just life is unpredictable. So we live in an unpredictable world, and it's unpredictable because we're atheistic, and we have no sense that God is the final, ultimate controller and permitter of everything. And there's no gratitude. Draupadi exhibited this extreme view of gratitude when she was tempted to be disrobed in a public assembly of the Kauravas, and she was protesting and trying to hold on to her garments. And then at a certain point she surrendered. She raised both arms and prayed to Krishna. She said that you can do whatever you want to do. And invisibly, Krishna supplied her unlimited cloth so she could continue to wrap herself and would not be made naked and publicly insulted, which the Kauravas had tended to do, because in the dice game they had cheated and lost the bet, and the bet was that they would lose their wife, and they lost, and she was saved by Krishna. So she exhibited the extreme form of gratitude. That's mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. The gratitude is one of the qualities of a devotee, that actually there is great gratitude. And Prabhupada even said this at the end of every lecture. Thank you. Thank you very much. And he always addressed the crowds. My dear ladies and gentlemen, my dear boys and girls, thank you for attending this meeting. So in a sense, he addressed all his audience people as his guru. Well, there's a situation that occurred in Melbourne, not in Melbourne, but just outside Melbourne. It was the St. Francis Monastery, St. Francis of Assisi Christian Monastery. And at one, Prabhupada says in 1977 that he was there, and one of the brothers asked him in the question period, well, what do you think of Jesus Christ? And Prabhupada didn't answer immediately. And then he told them, he said, he is our guru. In a sense, that was like the perfect response. That was his perfect answer. And the brothers really appreciated this answer. They thought, oh, this is God. And then another brother asked him at the question period, and this is recorded, what do you think of St. Francis? And Prabhupada had never heard of St. Francis of Assisi. And he said, what is his philosophy? So the brother told him that he was very kind to the birds, very kind to the animals, and very kind to all creatures. And Prabhupada, in a very grave tone, put his head down and said, that is God consciousness. And the brothers very much appreciated what he said. It wasn't he was a great Christian saint, but someone who was God conscious. So in that way, he was saying that it doesn't matter whether you're a Christian, Mohammedan, or a Jew, or whatever, or human, or what gender you are, or what age you are. If you're Krishna conscious, you can be God conscious. I mean, it doesn't really matter. So that's one thing that's very important to realize. And when Prabhupada first came to America, one of the things he said that stuck in my mind more than anything was he said, I'm not this body. And the way he said it, it was intoned in such a way that I felt, okay, well, maybe he thinks that way. He's not his body, but I am my body. I mean, this is the first time I was hearing, but that phrase kind of stuck in my mind, that I am not this body. And it's significant that most people I think the India now has the largest population in the world. I think it's even surpassed China recently. Most of the people, at least the older generation, they are convinced that there's such a thing as transmigration of the soul. So when someone dies in that part of the world, someone of a certain age, the people think that that's not the end of everything, that there's something else. Even great writers who are sometimes known to believe in the reincarnation have even written. There was a book by Leo Tolstoy, I think it was called Anna Karenina, and in the end she commits suicide. And according to Christian philosophy, if one commits suicide, that person becomes a ghost. So but anybody can become a ghost. It's just and ghosts are, because there's such a thing as inhabitation or possession. People are afraid, and they go to a place called Gaya somewhere in India. It's a Hindu ritual, and they offer food called pinda, and that food offering is there because they're trying to free their ancestors, their fathers or grandfathers and great-great-grandfathers, from ghostly existence so that they can get a physical body and not be mischievous possessors of bodies, which they are. They tend to be very mischievous. Prabhupada told us that once he rented a house at a very low price. It was a very low price because it was considered to be a haunted house. And the Prabhupada tells the story that one night he could sense that there was a ghost present. It was after dark, and he was busily engaged in his work, which was translating and reading Srimad Bhagavatam. And he said, I could understand, this is almost his exact words, I could understand there was a ghost in there. And the devotees, there was a ghost. And the devotees all said to him, well, what did you do? And he said, I chanted Hare Krishna. And then what happened? They asked him. And then what happened? And the ghost went away. So the idea is that and then he went on to say that a ghost cannot remain present in the presence of the holy name, that the holy name is so powerful that it can drive away even a mischievous entity like that, who has no material body, who's just trying to make mischief. And people even pay a lot of money for exorcists to drive out demonic personalities. And sometimes they're successful, sometimes they are not successful, because ghosts are very powerful. Being disembodied, they can travel at the speed of the mind. They can possess another person's body. They can haunt people in their dreams. They can do all sorts of things. So they're not necessarily in a very happy and in a very happy state for most people. So we all have freedom. Krishna gives us the freedom to become Krishna consciousness, and he gives us the freedom to become materially conscious. And we have a choice, and he gives us that choice because we do have freedom. We can drive in this country, we can drive on the left side, we can drive on the right side. But if we drive on the right side, it's dangerous. Even though we have the freedom to do it, we can do it. And similarly with Krishna consciousness, if we reject Krishna, if we become materially conscious, if we have our back to Krishna, it's very dangerous, although we can do it. We have the freedom to do it. And nowadays, because of great advances in communication, travel, and medicine, people think that we're all advancing, we're going forward. But we're actually going backward, because it's an atheistic society. And these things that are considered very great are very imperfect. Our airplanes tend to rumble and make noise and vibrate. And in Vedic life, the airplanes were made of flowers. They didn't vibrate. They could go at much greater speeds than the 747s. And they didn't make noise. They didn't vibrate. And they didn't cost any money. So these vimanas, or Vedic airplanes, were in a way, were much more advanced. And we think that modern science is advancing, is making great strides to advance in the world. And yet, if we examine the science, so-called science, means it comes from I think a Latin or Greek word meaning to know. And nowadays, science means technology. if you're expert with your iPhone or your computer or your automobile, that's considered to be a very advanced stage. And people today even think that if they pursue the scientific method, they can live for a long time. A devotee from India once came to the Berry Place and showed us a black and white picture of her guru, and he looked like a 25-year-old man. And she said, "This guy is 700 years old." 700 years old. And it might have been true, because according to the residents of Siddhaloka, which is very near, it's a satellite, it's considered a satellite of Brahmaloka, the residents there can fly without airplanes. They can go into outer space without air. They can move at great speeds. They can move at the speed of mind. In less than a second, they can be in a different universe. So these things are actually possible by the grace of God. And these are things to be grateful for. And what we are living in is that everyone is in effect an ingrate. An ingrate is an English word meaning a person who is not grateful or is a rogue or a rascal. And even though it's a very heavy thing to say, Prabhupada has said it right here in black and white, that those who do not feel grateful but simply go on enjoying these gifts of the Lord must be called thieves and rogues. So anyway, if you're a thief and a rogue, you can become a devotee, because you have the free choice to turn towards Krishna or to turn away from Krishna. That's the choice that Krishna has given all living entities. And especially as human beings, we have the opportunity to turn towards Krishna, whereas those that are in lower bodies, like animals, insects, and plants and trees, don't have that ability. So we're very fortunate to have that ability, and we're very fortunate to be in the Krishna conscious movement, which is full of people that have that ability, and they've made the right choice, not the wrong choice. So if anyone has any questions, I'll read the verse again. What grateful soul is there who would not render his loving service to such a great master as the personality of Godhead? The Lord can be easily pleased by spotless devotees who resort exclusively to him for protection, though the unrighteous man finds it difficult to propitiate him. We think that armaments can protect us against invasions of inimical persons in other countries. But the only protection, according to this verse, is by righteous people, is those who propitiate the Lord and see that only the Lord can protect them. And he is the only resort of protection. So any comments or questions on any of this? Yes?
What will be...
Vivekananda is visiting from wherever, Russia or Ukraine or India. He's world traveler.
Mostly Russia and Kazakhstan.
And Kazakhstan, okay.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. What will be practical application of gratitude? If someone
Application of
gratitude. Gratitude. Gratitude.
rigidity.
Gratitude.
Gratitude.
Oh, gratitude.
Yeah.
Well, the first and foremost way to express gratitude is to associate with devotees. Like we say in our prayer every day, the Gayatri mantra, the sannyas mantra, is that the material world is insurmountable, which means it cannot be overcome. But we can overcome it by surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this was approved, he goes on to say, by the previous acharyas who were fixed in firm devotion to the Lord, Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, in other words, if we associate with devotees, and Prabhupada mentions that 12 Mahajans are specifically approving of various shastras, and that it's not only shastra, but it's shastra, sadhu, and guru. But the shastras have to be approved by guru, have to be approved by sadhus, and have to be approved by guru. And if they're not, the contradictions abound. There are many sutras, like the Kama Sutra advises us that we can enjoy life through sexual intercourse. And other shastras say that we should renounce all of this completely, and that we should be raised as brahmacharis. So the first step in showing gratitude is to be with devotees, is to associate with devotees, and to see that only Krishna will protect us. Actually, Lord Chaitanya said that only he chanted this verse that said only Krishna is our protector. So if we worship Lord Chaitanya, if we associate with devotees and we read every day, that's the first step to realizing gratitude. Gratitude is one of the 26 qualifications of a devotee, and is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Chaitanya Charitamrita, what it is. And how we can obtain it is to read regularly and associate with devotees. I don't know if that's helpful. Okay, yes?
Thank you very much. We all have, not all, but I mean, have vices and virtues, and it's quite a common question that people asking how we can develop our good qualities, how we can get rid of the bad qualities, and there are two ways of thinking. One is just practice spiritual consciousness, and all the good qualities will develop and all the bad qualities will fade out. And there's another way of thinking, is that there's even some special courses how to develop, this and that, and gratitude as well. So what's your take on that?
My thinking on that is that if we try to develop gratitude and love for all creatures, including all animals and plants and insects and birds and so on, that it may not be possible. It is said in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Yasyati Bhaktira Bhagavatya Kinchana, that if we are devotees, we will automatically be vegetarians, we will automatically have all good qualities, we will automatically be grateful, and we will automatically, not automatically, but we have to try to, if we associate with devotees and we turn towards Krishna, then all good qualities will be manifest. Good qualities like gratitude and kindness and various forms of virtue. But if we try to do it without God, we will be unsuccessful. And that is why so many of these people are unhappy, and that's why there is warfare and conflict in the world, because people are atheistic. They're thinking that they can develop good qualities without God. And if they have God, I know this is a very controversial point for a lot of people, but if they have God, they can automatically be good people and do good things and have all the good qualities that they are striving for unsuccessfully to have. So it may seem kind of esoteric to surrender to Krishna, but that's what works, and that's why we're here. And that's why, even though we're a very small percentage of the population, we think that even though it's small, we can cross over the insurmountable ocean of nations by being firmly fixed in the service of the lotus feet of Krishna, as it is said in this verse. And that is a part of the song of the Avanti Brahman. And Lord Chaitanya thought that was a very important verse, that you not only have to read every day what the Shastras say, but you have to see what the sadhus think of it. And therefore, we worship the 12 Mahajans, Shambhu, including Lord Shiva, including Bhishma, because they approve of, they're giving us their seal of approval on all the Shastras.
Just a continuation. If one is practicing Krishna consciousness, so trying to be connected with God, is there any need to simultaneously to try to get rid of the bad qualities? I mean, or just do it, just practice, and everything else will come to places?
I can answer this by recalling a meeting with the head of the Westminster Abbey. I can't remember his name, and he had another person with him, a lord somebody or other. And he had this associate accompany him because he knew something about Indian and Hindu culture. And during the conversation, Prabhupada mentioned this verse about you can get all good qualities by surrendering to Krishna. And the Lord said, I don't agree with that. That is wrong. That is what people think. They think that it's wrong to be worshiping God, and that you can, if you surrender to God, you can obtain everything. Of course, devotees sometimes they come to Krishna consciousness because they like the camaraderie, they like the food, they like the music, they like the friendliness. But so they do have to try. But and sometimes people who come for those reasons don't stay with Krishna consciousness. After a while, and when it gets difficult, they go away. But so they do have to try. And trying means to associate regularly, to read regularly, to attend the temple programs regularly, and to make a good attempt to be very kind. So that's why we're very protective of the cows and birds, and that's why we worship Tulsi, because Krishna has said that we have to be very kind to all creatures. So we do have to make an effort to do it. It's if we're thinking that everything is going to happen automatically, and we don't make any efforts, it's not a good situation. Yes, Rishi.
Thank you, Gurudev, for that very nice class. Talking about gratitude. And then he's mentioned St. Francis of Assisi saying, be kind to animals and birds and so forth. If you get a big mosquito coming to attack you, if you have a big mosquito coming to attack you and you swat and you hit it, you're not being kind, you're killing an animal or a soul. How do you transcend that in a way?
Well, the Kshatriyas of yore had the sort of concession to punish criminals. Sometimes they even had to kill them, because they're a small percentage of the population. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's less than 10%. And they have the concession, they can not only kill people, but they can eat meat, because they have to hunt sometimes and learn the art of killing. But that's not for the majority of people. Those are for specialists. So sometimes it's necessary to protect oneself against tigers and lions and wild elephants. And it's not meant for everyone, but it sometimes has to happen. And those animals, they have the freedom to choose, just like we have the freedom to choose Krishna, to turn towards Krishna or to turn away from Krishna. And they turn away from Krishna. So they attack people who are more developed than they are. Therefore, we have developed guns and tranquilizers and things like that to protect ourselves. So it's not that we have to be kind to everyone all the time. Sometimes it's necessary to protect ourselves by being violent. And Arjuna exhibited this too. Prabhupada chose the cover of Back to Godhead to be Krishna and Arjuna driving into warfare. Didn't show Krishna dancing with the gopis as the cover. And the cover was that we can be violent sometimes. If Krishna wants us to do it, we can do it. But generally, Krishna doesn't want us to do it. So
Thank you.
My advice is don't be violent.
Thank you.
Can you give please some advices about situation when we say devotees being offended by God, like they observe being offended because of some tragedy? For example, their children died somehow and they cannot feel gratitude to God and to the whole situation. How to help them from the side and how to maintain again this gratitude if some tragedy can take place.
The first point is that the death is not the end. And if a child dies, that child is going to get a greater birth, especially if he's a child of a devotee. It's mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, Srimatam Yoginam Srimatam Gehe, that a person who doesn't complete the course in Krishna consciousness, or who dies young, or dies of a disease, or something like that, it's a very tragic situation. And there has to be some kind of finality, like a funeral ceremony or putting ashes in the Ganga or something like that. But at the same time, the parents have to know that this is what is called, quote, Krishna's arrangement, close quote, that there's a higher purpose in a great tragedy. There's a higher purpose involved. And the higher purpose is that that person is going to get a better birth in the next life. So in that way, we do admit that it is a tragedy and that proper funeral ceremonies have to be properly observed. Even in the case of Hiranyakashipu, there were funeral ceremonies. But at the same time, Hiranyakashipu and others who are, they're guaranteed a better existence in the future. So if we understand the principle of transmigration fully, and we're convinced of that, then we have to know that death is not the, it's tragic, but it's not the end.
And sometimes, like, we know the philosophy good, but then when the emotions win, and you just cannot do anything in these difficult situations, so, like, you were practicing for a while, and then something happened, and you forget all the philosophy, how to be again gratitude. To forget the philosophy that we once adopted is not a benefit. And it's possible there are devotees who are Prabhupada's, for example, intimate personal assistants who left Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada has told us that we should always remember Krishna. We should never become forgetful. So becoming forgetful is not a good sign, and therefore we have to engage in some form of finality in funeral ceremonies and depositing ashes in the Ganga. They give us some strength that there's some truth in the philosophy of transmigration of the soul. It's not because someone dies, it's only a tragedy. It's a tragedy, it's a cloud that has a silver lining, because we have to know that that person is going to get a better birth in the next life. And that can't be done immediately, but by constantly remembering Krishna and reading the philosophy and becoming absorbed in the philosophy, and knowing that we have to try to remember Krishna in all circumstances. That either Krishna's arrangements are not always pleasant, but they're sometimes unpleasant. It's still there is still something good about it. Any other comments or questions? Okay, I think we'll stop at that point. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.